Welcome to Ask the Marshal Live. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Marshall with REMAX Twin City, and of course, proudly serving Brantford, Brant County, and all surrounding areas. Every week, this show is just about you, okay? Your goals, your questions, helping you make confident, smart real estate decisions, and without the fluff. So, whether you're buying, selling, investing, or you're just curious, I'm here to help. And drop your question in the comments. Tell me where you're watching, any questions that you have, ask them anytime. And this is a conversation, not a presentation. I'm here to go ahead and be a resource and help you out and get to the bottom of it. So let's kind of dig in today. All right. Today, what we're talking about is home ownership and wealth. Okay. And right now, this is a hotly debated topic, as you know. You start looking around the YouTubes and the Googles and the internet and whatnot. People have lots of comments, lots of information. Everyone's got a strong opinion, okay? And today I just want to chat with you, talk to you about the facts and about what home ownership really is and the wealth effect that creates and what that has on the average home buyer and the average family. And hopefully this will strike a chord with you if you're renting. Hopefully it will strike a chord with you if you own and you're really contemplating, where you're at and what you're doing. As you watch, like I say, these different sources and read the news and are filled with questions or sometimes a little bit of fear or doubt. So hopefully I can shed some light on some of that. So let's start with the big picture. And why does homeownership still stand as the number one wealth building tool for Canadian families? Well, number one, I'll tell you that equity builds automatically. Okay, so while you live there, according to the REMAX Canada Housing Market Drivers Report, home values in major Canadian cities have risen as much as 460% since 1994. And that's a recent report just here. Just came out actually last month. Okay, no, November 6th, that report came out. So once again, when we look at real estate, everybody likes to comment on the short-term real estate picture, and I get it. We live in that. We watch our values go up and down, and we are very sensitive to that. But what real estate is a long-term wealth building tool, and that's what we really need to focus on. Everyone needs to live somewhere. And this is where homeownership, in my strong opinion, really shines. So, number two, home equity dominates household net worth. So, research shows that for many Canadian households, their home represents nearly 50% of the total net worth, especially for low and middle income families. And that's from the Canadian Real Estate Association that we know well, we understand that well. And it just makes sense because especially for the lower middle income families, when you have a house and you have a forced savings and it's appreciating over time, that is your greatest point of leverage and your greatest opportunity to build that wealth. And if you're renting, you just don't have that opportunity. Obviously, higher net income individuals have other wealth building tools, and that is typically businesses, larger investments, and things like that really accelerate for them. Now, there is a huge gap between owners and renters. So, for example, a Canadian aged between 55 and 64 years old, homeowners in 2023 had a median net worth of about $1.2 million, while renters had only about $43,000. Now, that's a huge gap of nearly between 10 to 30 times in some demographics. That is enormous. And while there's obviously risks for home ownership that many people see, if you're a renter, that is just a fact. You don't have that extra tool of wealth building that the average homeowner has. So 10 to 30 times the value, the amount of net worth. It's pretty staggering. Now, equity unlocks opportunity. A survey revealed that 24% of Canadian homeowners expect their home equity to fund at least some of their retirement. So we know this. We know that lots of Canadians are banking on the value of their home to fund their retirement for when they need it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just a fact. That's what they're looking at. So, of course, the bottom line is that when you own a home in the right market, you're not just buying a place to live, you're planting a long-term wealth machine. And that's especially true here in Brantford, Brant County, and area where affordability, access, and growth potentials still remain very, very strong. So I know we hear lots of reports coming from the GTA, and that's what a lot of reports really depend on, and the news sells. But real estate is, of course, a regional issue, and that's where we need to focus on, need to pay attention to. Whatever area you're in, if you're looking at and paying attention to national stats or regional stats, you really want to narrow it down to where you are in your city and what's happening. And some of the larger cities, your neighborhood, what's happening in the neighborhood, because that's going to start to tell you what is really, really happening. Okay. Let's talk. Let me give you a real life example. Okay. And many examples really of what I deal with on a daily basis. And so the typical path for a lot of homeowners is you're going to start with a modest home as a first-time home buyer. You're going to get into the marketplace. Doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be super special. But you got to start somewhere, okay? And so you usually start with your first-time house, okay? So let's say you start with a modest 3-bedroom home in our area or your area, and with the right pricing, staging, and market timing, that can obviously get sold, okay? So the goal is that you get into a house, and then when you need to move up, when it's priced right, staged, it will sell quick. And then you can move into your larger home, okay? Now the equity that you unlocked from your first house in that first sale becomes your down payment on the next one. So when you buy your first house, you get into that, you start paying it down, and it naturally will appreciate over time, and always has. We expect that it will over the long term. And then when you go to sell that house, you have built up equity through appreciation and through paying down the mortgage. Those two powerful factors. So once you have that, then when you go to sell, then you can take that locked in equity that's in your house now, and you can move that to your next home or your dream home. Okay? And that's why we talk about the buy, the build equity, and then the move up path. And that's it in action. That's how it works. So that's typical, and that's where a lot of people will start and build up from there. Now, another example of a way to do this rapidly and to go ahead and build your wealth is, say a homeowner has a house and they add in a legal basement suite or sometimes an accessory dwelling unit to their property. And that property or their unit brings in additional cash flow, and that reduces their carrying costs and increases the property's value. Okay? And so that same strategy obviously applies. So you are building the wealth, you're paying down the mortgage, the property is appreciating, okay? And then it opens up your opportunities for moving into that next home, your dream home, we'll call it, moving up and getting into where you want to be, okay? So it's an important path that we need to understand that you can take. So you can obviously buy it, live in it, build up the equity, get the appreciation, and sell it and move. Or in this example, add in an accessory unit somewhere. And then what we would do is we'd move on and we'd take the equity out of that home and buy your next house and keep the existing one. Okay? And that's how you go ahead and duplicate the process and expand your wealth. Now, let's talk about 3 wealth paths that we're going to dive into a little bit here. So the 3 major paths that we're going to talk about is, number 1, we're going to buy, and we're going to build equity, and we're going to move up. So we're going to start smaller, pay down the mortgage, use the appreciation, and then trade up. Okay? Your first home becomes the launch pad. And like I mentioned, that's where you're going to start. And that's where I always recommend for any first-time home buyer. We often go out and try to find the perfect or the right property. But at the end of the day, I just encourage them, we need to get into something. And so you may not find the most perfect property. You may not find the property that is in perfect shape. But get into something, because you got to start the path. You got to start the process. Okay? So once you're in the unit, then you go ahead and ideally, what I like to recommend for people is you want to add in an income stream. Okay, if you can add in an income stream, be it a legal basement suite, a garden suite, or a duplex conversion, your home will start to pay you now. And that extra cash flow that comes in, it accelerates equity growth. Okay, so you can pay down your mortgage faster, you can improve the property in other ways, or it will also add in additional value in the house in many, many neighborhoods. Okay, once you have that and you're in that position where you've got that unit growing and building, then what we can do is we're going to leverage what you have. Okay, we're going to take that property, we're going to leverage it, and with discipline, you can use all that equity in the house and using a home equity line of credit, any type of bridge financing or additional financing. Then we'll be able to purchase your next property with that. Okay, we're going to turn your principal home into a wealth engine. So we'll keep the existing, we'll take the equity out, we'll move it forward into the new house. Okay, and that's really what starts to accelerate and move things forward for you. Okay, I know for a lot of people it doesn't always sound the sexiest, it doesn't sound exactly where we want to be, but this is a great opportunity, and it's not an opportunity that you want to overlook. Okay, and I have guarantees in my business that I like to support people with and use, and they work great. So with my guarantee of your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it, it's fantastic. And that way, when you have a house and you want to move up, I will give you a guarantee on your house with a closing date, and it will sell, and we can go out and buy your next house cash. And then, of course, if I have a property listed for sale that someone wants to buy from me and through me, if you buy that with me, then I'll go ahead and I'll make an offer on your house so you can buy that house cash. Okay, and that's designed to reduce the risk for you and position you to move up and move on and get along and get into a great deal. Okay, now in today's market, the smart movement isn't just to buy, but to buy strategically. Now, and that's where I'm here to walk you through the whole process. There are many steps in between. I like to be able to simplify it for you, but I'm here to support you and to make sure that you can move ahead confidently with little to no stress, and so you can get into your dream home. Okay, and it's about building the wealth, through long-term home ownership in Canada. It's our greatest opportunity. Okay, and then there's one major factor there in owning real estate here in Canada that we need to also discuss, and that is when you own a piece of real estate here in Canada, any appreciation in that property over time is tax-free. Currently, the government doesn't tax you on that appreciation of your home. Okay, the value. So there's no capital gain that's payable. So it's really powerful in whatever house you're in, and that's the leverage portion. You can take that and move that into the next house with you, and that will grow and build, and you can nurture that throughout. Okay. Any questions? Post them down below. I'd love to be able to answer them. Any questions that you have pop up. So we'll do a quick little check over here. If you have any questions, thanks for joining, everybody. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no capital gains when you go ahead and sell your house in Canada. Okay, so any and all appreciation is tax free. Okay, in the United States typically, and I don't sell there, not an expert there, but you typically have to pay capital gain on your appreciation. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. Okay. Any other questions here before we dive into the next segment? So once again, owning real estate over the long term is what we do. Okay, focusing on the short term, focusing on the fear, the headlines. I understand it's out there, but we do need to go ahead and stop focusing on that so much, because when you're in a house, if you're planning to be there for the long term, that's where it's pertinent. That's where it's important for you. Okay. All right, great. Let's do a quick little market update here for the Brantford and Brantford area. Currently, in the city of Brantford, there are 397 active listings as of today. In the past 30 days, there's 117 properties that have sold or gone unconditional. And the average days on market here in the city of Brantford is 66 days that takes properties to sell in. And that currently leaves us with about 3.4 months of supply on the market right now. Okay, So if no other houses come on the market and list for sale, we currently have 3.4 months of supply on the market right now. Okay. So where does that put us? Well, you know what? That puts us in a good balanced market. That's where we are here in Brantford. So when once again you look at your headlines, you look at all the negativity or any fear that people are talking about, that's just a fact. We're in a balanced market. 3.4 months of supply. Anything less than 3 months supply is a seller's market. Anything 6 months or more is a buyer's market. Okay, so we're right here, and obviously on the seller side. Okay, a seller's market. In the county of Brant, there are currently 215 houses on the market that are currently for sale. Okay, in the past 30 days, 48 properties have sold or become unconditionally sold, and the average days on market is 68 days to sell a house in the county of Brant. Okay, and the number of months of supply on the market in the county of Brant is 4.5 months of supply on the market right now. So once again, right now, the county of Brant just sitting right now, it's in a balanced market. So where buyers and sellers are able to negotiate and have conversations and to negotiate a good deal for themselves and for each other. So that gives us a great amount of confidence. Okay. And once again, when I see these numbers, and that's why I do them often with you, I try to do them every week here. And on my social media channels, I like to talk about the Brantford Market. We need to see where the numbers are at so we know how to react, okay? So that tells me that properly priced homes are selling in a reasonable amount of time. In our cases right here, 66, 68 days on the market. And we're in a balanced market. So if it's priced properly, it's going to sell in a reasonable amount of time, okay? Contrary to what your neighbor may be thinking, or what you might be seeing on your street. Okay, ask your questions, post your questions below, please. Love to be able to get to some of the additional ones, and if I don't get them to them today, as they're rolling in, I'll chat about them there next week. So, let's talk about questions. Let's talk about where we're at, what we've got. A couple questions that were sent to me here is. So I have equity in my home. What do I do right now? What do I do with it right now? Well, look, that's a big question. I am a fan, just to be clear, I am a fan that over time you're going to pay your house off. Okay, that is for most people, that is the right path in my opinion. I think that we need to be focusing on getting your house paid for and paid off. Okay, now an advanced strategy with that needs to be talked about. Now I will also phrase this and put this in brackets and with a notice above my head. You need to get professional financial advice. This is not financial advice. But what I personally do is when I pay down or pay a house off, then I do go back and I borrow money back. And I'll take that money and get that active again in the marketplace, either buying more real estate or making another investment. Okay, here's why I do that. I do that because obviously I need to leverage what I have and I need to get that money active and operating for me accordingly. Okay? Super important. You want to be able to take that money and get that rolling into another investment. Now, when you do that in Canada currently, when you do that, any interest that you pay on that borrowed money is tax deductible. Okay? So in accounting world, essentially that money doesn't cost you anything because it will be offset by the income that you're generating on the next investment. Okay, so once again, you need to get professional accounting advice. This is not professional accounting or financial planning advice. I'm just telling you about what I do and what I'd like to focus on. So then I can turn, like I mentioned before in this earlier example, I can take one house and turn that into one, turn those two into four, turn those four into 8 over time. Okay, and then generate as much as I can and keep rolling that forward. That is my long-term plan. Okay, that's my personal plan. It may not be your plan. It may not be a good plan for you. For a lot of people, like I mentioned, I think you should probably pay your house off, get it paid for, and live with that and focus on other investments. That's, for a lot of people, that probably is good advice, but you need to get your own personal advice, your own personal consultant for that. Okay, and if you want to chat about it with me, I'd love to sit down with you, look at your particular example, and strategize with you and see how we can turn that 1 into 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. And so you can build wealth over time and change your grandchildren's lives. Okay, that's what I strongly believe, and I know that real estate can do is that you not only just change your own life, you will change how your grandkids can live, and that's my goal. I want to be able to give my grandkids something that I never had, and give them more of what I did have. So, just that's where I think with real estate you have to be thinking long term. Stop looking at the short term news. Stop looking at the short term headlines. They're trying to sell newspapers and they're trying to get clicks to sell their advertising. I get it. It's a business model, but you do need to separate the two. Okay. Next thing, can I buy my next home before selling this one? Yeah, exactly. So once again, with my guaranteed sale program, I do that with people a lot. So if you have a house and you want to get moved on, you want to go to your next house, I will give you a guaranteed offer on your house. Okay, not just lip service, not words. I will give you a written agreement of purchase and sale on your house with a closing date, a firm closing date that you and I agree on, along with price. And once you have that, then you can go out and purchase and shop for your next house cash without any conditions. Okay. And so I just like to encourage people. I can promise you, if you start searching and buying a house in this market right now, and you can make cash offers without any conditions, I promise you, in most cases, you will be able to save a lot of money. Okay, and that's the goal. That is certainly the goal. I want to be able to see you save a ton of money. I'll give you a guaranteed sale on your house, and we can move forward confidently. And that's how those two work together for my guaranteed sale program. Works awesome. I love doing it, and it's really works great. Just works great. So I can explain it some more if you want to sit down face to face and in depth into your particular circumstance and put some numbers to that. But that's generally what you can do and what I encourage. Okay. Another question that came in here that was sent to me is a basement suite worth it in Brantford, Brant County? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a very common method right now is adding in additional suites or additional units into your existing home. Something I highly encourage. And when I first started buying real estate, when I first broke into the market, that's what I did. I mean, I didn't not first, but what I did is I actually buy a triplex. So I bought a house that had 3 units in it. Okay, upper, lower, and back unit. Well, I live in the back unit. The back smallest unit is where I lived back then. Back way in the days, back then, I was a bachelor, and actually dating my wife. But I was a bachelor, lived in that 1 bedroom apartment, and I loved it. And while I lived there, the property paid for itself. Okay, it paid for itself. It was great, and then that afforded me the opportunity to go ahead and buy my next property. And I moved from there. And the next property that I purchased is that I bought a property and I converted that to a duplex. Okay, so I made that into 2 units, and then I rented it upstairs, and I lived on the main floor. And at that time, I was now engaged and then got married. So both of us, we lived there and we lived in the duplex. Okay. So then I was able to keep the original triplex. Now I've got the duplex, live in one half, rent it the other. The triplex is now fully rented out, and I've got cash coming in. Okay. I've got cash coming in, and now I can start the process. And that's how I recommend and try to encourage people to start the process. When you're a first time home buyer, get into that. Now, is adding a secondary suite worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely worth it in your existing home. And there's lots of homes that work really well for that, be it a basement unit, be it a front unit or a back unit. Maybe you live in the main floor and you can convert the upper unit. We can be creative with this. There's lots of opportunities. And with recent legislation that was passed a few years ago here in the province of Ontario, every residential property in the province of Ontario, by zoning, as long as it has residential zoning, can be a triplex, as long as it can support parking. Okay? That is what, generally speaking, throughout the whole province, you can do. So if the house that you're sitting in right now likely can be a triplex. Okay? As long as it can support the parking, and you have to meet the requirements, you have to make application through your local city or county. But generally speaking, yes. Okay? You can definitely add a unit. And look, we all know, you look out there in the marketplace and you see what places are renting for. Okay? You just have a look in your, on Kijiji, on Facebook Marketplace, and wherever. Just go see what a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment's renting for right now. Okay? With or without utilities. Just check that out. And just that, let me ask you, would you like to have that money coming in every month on a recurring basis for eternity, for as long as you want, right? Would you like that coming in? For a lot of people, yes. A lot of people obviously, will say yes, it's a great idea. An extra couple grand coming in a month, an extra $1,000 a month coming in for sure will change your financial picture today and will change your financial picture over the long term. Like I say, you hold that property, you don't have to sell it, keep it forever, and it will change your grandkids' lives. Okay, so is it a good idea? Absolutely, absolutely. And let's face it, nowadays we live in big houses. I was raised in a house that was about 950 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 stories. 6 people live there, 1 bathroom. Okay, back then that was pretty normal. Like everybody I grew up with and hung out with in the old neighborhood of Homedale. That's what everyone had. Few people had 2 bathrooms. If you had 2 bathrooms, you were pretty special. Now, it's the norm. A lot of people expect to have minimum 2 bathrooms, and our houses are much larger now. The average house that sells across price ranges is about 1,500 square feet. 13 to 15, and you see how builders build them. That's where they start. They start at 1,300 square feet and go up usually. So that's our standard. Now, there's generally a lot of room. Okay, and the majority of homes that are out there do have full unfinished basements. Well, that could be a unit like that. Just a snap of the fingers. Hire the right contractor, get the right advice, turn that into a unit. Yes, it costs money, but you can take the money out of the equity of your house to convert that unit, and then you turn maybe that $60,000 or $80,000 renovation into $2,000 a month. $60,000 to $80,000 renovation you can turn into $24,000 a year in income or more. That sounds like a great deal. Quick numbers is you can take that $60,000 to $80,000 and you can recoup all that money from the investment within 3 or 4 years. Name another investment that you're currently investing in right now that is going to go ahead and return, let's say that 25, 30% return for you every year and an annual basis. Few people can say that they are doing that and they're producing that. I know that some people are and are doing that regularly, obviously, but majority of people are not. Majority of people are probably just putting their money in the S&P or the equivalent and getting your 8 to 10% a year and just hoping and praying. Well, you add in an accessory unit into your house, game changer, absolute game changer. Okay. If you're thinking about buying or selling, obviously ask me anything. I'm here as a resource. I'm here to go ahead and give you a strategy, and I'd love to do an in-home consultation with you if you would like, either that being a pricing strategy or a marketing strategy for your house. Whatever you're thinking, I'd love to be able to give you an idea. And if you're looking to buy, of course, let me know. You can DM me with my asking for a copy of my home buyer's guide. I'd gladly get that out to you and send that to you so you have that. Okay. Just text me, DM me wealth below, and that way you'll have a copy of that. Okay. Once again, I always like to mention, before I close out, go ahead and mention, I'm a proud supporter of the Brantford Blessing Center. Okay. If you don't know who the Brantford Blessing Center is, it's something that's nearest and dearest to my heart, and they're feeding families every day, on average about 150 meals a day here in the city of Brantford. So every time I go ahead and help someone buy or sell a house, a portion of my proceeds I donate to the Brantford Blessing Center. So I encourage you to support them. I will send you a link below if you're able to support them. They're doing some great work. Check them out. And especially in this time, this economic climate, a lot of people are in some grave need, and they will go there for meals, and I'd love to be able to help them get the support that they need. Okay. Once again, your home will be sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. I'm here to help you, here to strategize, to help you figure it out. And of course, I've got thousands of buyers in my database, so your home may already be sold. Okay. If you're thinking about selling, give me a call. I could probably have that sold for you right away. As always, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like and share and comment. I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining. Once again, Ask the Marshall Live. Submit your questions. We'll add them to the list for next week, and we'll get to them. Hope you have a great week. And as always, we'll talk soon.